Welcome to the Strong Youth Project, where our mission is to improve organized sport experiences for youth, parents, coaches, and other mentors via education and evidence-based practice.
Welcome back to the Strong Youth Project podcast. My name is Jennings Genho, and today I sat down with Talan Alfrey. In today's podcast, we discuss Talan's experience playing multiple sports, his experience recovering from injury, as well as building resiliency on the athletic field. He also talked about his experience with coaches, primarily with Kalani Sitake. We hope you enjoyed today's podcast. Okay, Talan, thanks for being on the podcast with us. So why don't you start off just by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, thanks for having me. So I grew up in Auburn, Washington. It's about 30 minutes south of Seattle. I'm one of 6 kids, and so came from a busy family. All the kids played sports. I have 3 older sisters and then 2 younger brothers, and so always staying busy. Parents are amazing. They're athletic, and they kind of helped us kind of find the love for sports when we were young. I've been married for 2.5 years now to my wonderful wife, Kate. She's from small town Colorado called Rangeley, and she grew up it's kind of same. I'll play all the sports possible. Still plays, pickup basketball. Still plays in the rec leagues. Plays volleyball. So we enjoyed just anything doing sports together.
Sweet. I think that's one of the big benefits of sports is you can keep on playing after, even if it's not competitive, right? Or in a league, but you can still go and play with your spouse or your friends or whatever. So that's cool. You said you played multiple sports. What sports all did you play?
Yeah, so growing up, played football, basketball, soccer, did track. I stopped playing soccer when I got to middle school. But yeah, kind of
a little bit of everything. Tested out, saw what you liked.
Yeah.
If you've listened to the podcast or know anything about the Strong Youth Project, you know that we are big advocates for multi-sport athletes, kids not specializing at a young age. So what benefits do you think you saw from playing multiple sports?
Yeah, I think for me, I just enjoyed every single sport. I enjoyed playing football. I enjoyed playing basketball. Basketball was my favorite sport most of my childhood. Still is one of my favorite sports. And then I think there's different, friend groups that come from playing different sports. You're not just, I had football friends, basketball friends, I had track friends. And then obviously the cross training and, in high school, a lot of, football athletes will do track just to get faster. And I think it does help. And I've seen the benefits of that. And I was a sprinter, but I was more of a long and triple jumper. And so I was able to then also, work on producing power and force, which all translated to the football field and basketball court. So, I think just one benefit of having more friends, having a lot of fun, and then 2, the cross training of not just overtraining the muscles for one sport and being diverse.
I think both those things are huge because the reality is not every kid's going to be a collegiate athlete, but we want every kid to have friends, right? We want them, and so making a lot of friends is great. And then that other part you hit the cross training, learning all these different skills and stuff from different sports is huge.
Yeah,
I know one reason people try to avoid early sports specialization is because of the injuries it could cause, overuse injuries, but that's not the only cause of injury. There's a lot of ways we can get injured, especially with a high impact sport like football. Have you had much experience with injuries, or what's your experience with injuries been like?
Yeah, that's a good question. And so throughout high school, I didn't really have any major injuries. I broke a hand, but I was able to play through it with a club, casting club, and I sprained the knee, but that's about it in high school. So when I got to college, my freshman year during summer training, I actually fully ruptured my Achilles.
Oh, dang.
And that, for those who know or don't know, it's a pretty brutal injury. And it takes a long time to recover. And it was 2 weeks before fall camp, my freshman year. And so I was pretty devastated because, I was hoping to play, hoping to see the field a little bit, and just kind of taken away from me. And so, that one was brutal. And it did take over a year to really kind of come back from that injury, and it was difficult because there wasn't much experience at BYU with Achilles injuries. And you usually see it in middle-aged men playing basketball, not young, athletic college football
19
players.
19 to 20 years, however old.
Yeah, so that was a little different, and it's hard to pinpoint why it happened or what caused it. But I had to overcome that. Just obviously BYU has a lot of resources for me to rehab and recover and all that. And then came back, played the year after that, but then the following year, 1 week before the first game, I broke my collarbone in practice.
Dang.
Just during a one-on-one rep,
another random injury.
Another random kind of freak accident. Like, it was just me landing on the ground wrong on my shoulder. And so, that one sucked because I was really, really excited for that season, and I was looking forward to playing a lot, and then that was taken away. So, two injuries at kind of very unfortunate time. But able to get back and be healthy. So
what's like the mental side of the recovery process look like? I'm sure that can be pretty devastating to, like you said, you're a freshman, you're excited to come and play college football at BYU, and then all of a sudden you ruptured your Achilles. Walk me through kind of maybe your initial thoughts, your initial reaction, and then kind of how you were able to frame it in your mind to help you through that recovery process.
Yeah, so initial just shock. Like I had heard of Kobe tore his Achilles, Kevin Durant tore his Achilles. I had heard of that, but I hadn't really processed that that's what I did. Took me a little bit of time to realize that, like, how gruesome and like how long the recovery was going to be. And so that was like the first initial like strong emotion that I felt was like the shock of I can't play. And I had been on a 2-year mission, and so I wasn't playing, and so I was really excited to get back
you were
playing.
ready to get back in it.
And so having to wait 1 more year to do that was hard. And then the other thing that was hard was, the Achilles, you can't, without it, you can't walk, you can't run, you can't do much. When you're in the cast, you can't sweat, you can't work out, and that's like been my whole identity, is just being an athlete and working out and sweating and pushing my body to limits and getting stronger and faster. And so that was hard to kind of find a new way to grow. And obviously film was a great way for me to do that. I was still learning the defense, still learning college football and how more complicated it is than high school football. And so I was able to, use the film room and use all the playbook to get better that way mentally. But it was hard to not have that progress physically and actually kind of like regressed. And so that was really difficult. Just felt like I had a step back from everything. So
that's tough. But it helped to be able to find some outlet to put, like you said, film study, right? Like some outlet to put your efforts in and show you're still working towards it.
And then there was there's someone who approached me about Taysom Hill, using his example of he had a season-ending injury every time he was at BYU.
Every year.
And one of his like commitments was, if he's going to do something, he's going to do it to the best of his ability. And so he would compete in the classroom. And I think it was Chad Lewis, I think, who actually shared that story with me. And so after having that conversation with Chad Lewis about, I can't compete on the field, but there's still ways to compete, and the classroom was one of them. So I did, and I tried to, take my talents, to the classroom more and compete, getting good grades and learning material. And I was in some pretty tough chemistry classes at the time, so I needed to.
Those weeder classes are tough to. Yeah, that's for sure. That's cool. I think one big problem that maybe it was just me that had it when I was a high schooler or whatever is having a sense of identity outside of the sport, and so being able to like you said, compete in the classroom or I don't want to say compete as a son, but like, you know what I mean? Like look at your yourself and your family role or whatever it might be, and focus on that stuff as well. I think is important for everybody. You mentioned resiliency. What are some lessons you've learned from sports? And you just gave one great example of resiliency coming back from injury, but do you have any other examples of resiliency you've seen from sports? And
this year was an interesting year for me, just from a playing time standpoint and my role on my team. And what ended up being my role was a lot of special teams this year, which I'm super grateful for. I think there's two different examples that I want to kind of touch on resiliency from this season. One is from the Utah game. I was running down on kickoff, and one of their blockers came to block me, and he absolutely leveled me. Mm-hmm. I've been hit hard, and that was like one of the hardest hits I've had on the football field. Dazed me a little bit. I was like, obviously I was mad that he got me, and like I should have been lower, should have had better leverage, all that stuff. But it was able to, next play mentality. We always talk about that for football, and flush that play and go on to the next. And I don't remember how many kickoff return reps it was after, but it was the same exact player that hit me. I was assigned to block him on kickoff return, and that's when Keelan took it all the way back for a touchdown. So I was able to get back a little bit and show that I can do the next play mentality thing. So and then the other example is most people see or remember who scored the touchdown in the Houston game, but not a lot of people remember who the ball hit off in the Arizona State game, and that was me.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so
I didn't remember that. So,
it's a little bit of a bittersweet memory, but Arizona State, their kicker drilled it off my leg, and obviously there's a ton of frustration with that. We knew it was coming. I just couldn't get out of the way.
Yeah.
And so that was very frustrating. But then again, obviously I was still devastated and sad and all that, and had, moments of, just felt like I let the team down and all that. But being able to come back against Houston and return that onside kick that they tried, just was, made it even more glorious and more fun to have that experience. But I think it does show that it's not the end of the world if one play doesn't go your way. I'm glad I didn't give up or quit or ask to be moved from that, because I was in the same exact position, kickoff return, front line. And so I could have told the special teams coordinator to move me to a different spot or take me off, or I decided to, I can get better, I can be better from this, and glad I did, so I could have that experience of that touchdown against Houston.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think there's a stat that Kobe Bryant has the most made game-winning points and the most missed game-winning points. So it's kind of a similar thing. Like you can miss the game winner, right, or whatever, or make a mistake and say, "Hey, take me out, coach," or I'm not able to do this in the moment I need to. Or you can, have that Kobe Bryant mentality, the mentality you showed of like, "Hey, I can do this. I practiced. I know I can do it." Have resiliency. That's awesome. Something else we wanted to talk about was what your recovery process looks like. Maybe after a hard practice, hard game, or even just the day-to-day stuff. How do you recover and try to avoid? And obviously, like we mentioned, there's some injuries that are just freak accidents. You can't avoid all the way. But what kind of stuff do you do to try to avoid injury?
Yeah, it's a good topic to talk about. After my Achilles injury, I realized that I was getting a massage, and the massage therapist was saying how tight my calves were. And I was like, well, they don't feel tight. And obviously that probably played into the Achilles rupturing. It was tight calves. And so I was like, that made me ponder about like what I need to be doing to take care of my body.
Yeah.
Even if I don't feel the soreness or tightness or deficiency. And so from then it's just been, after practice, it's going in the hot tub and cold tub and doing that contrast, flush, get some fresh blood in the muscles. We have massage therapists, like I mentioned, at BYU, and it's not even that I necessarily am sore all the time, but knowing that muscles are tight and that to make them work properly and pay attention to them. And so to like nowadays in the off season, what the recovery, what I like, we work out Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, with Wednesday as a designated recovery day.
Mm-hmm.
And we go into the weight room, we roll out, we stretch, we use lacrosse balls to, roll out muscles. We use bands to stretch, foam rollers, all that stuff. Well, one thing that I do is I do that every night. And so it's not just a one day a week type of thing for me. It's like I have that stuff at home. So if I'm, listening to a podcast or I'm watching Netflix or whatever I'm doing, I'm on the floor rolling out, stretching. One thing I'm working on this off season is my hip mobility. So I have, hip exercises and stretches that I'm doing to increase that. And then obviously Wednesdays, like I said, we do the team recovery day, and then we have Saturday, Sunday off. And so it's 4 days of the week of hard, real work. And then, but the other days aren't really, the coaches always stress they're not on days off, because if you take them off and do nothing, then they don't benefit you and you're not ready for the Monday or the Thursday when we start up again. And so being conscious of eating soon after a lift to get the right nutrients in your body, and drinking the protein to get the protein intake right away. I'm not an expert on nutrition. I just listen and do what as I'm told from the coaches.
That's smart.
But there's nutrition in recovery. There's water. There's hydration. There's electrolytes. There's a lot that can go into it. And then
I'm guessing sleep's
a big one. I actually wear this watch to help me track my sleep, make sure I'm getting the right amount of sleep and right quality of sleep. And it's kind of they say shoot for 8 hours, but if you really want to recover, you're probably getting 8.5, 9, and let your body do its thing while it sleeps. It's kind of the best form of recovery, because you don't have to actively do anything. Your body just does its thing as you sleep. Sleep, eating, hydration, and then just doing the little things.
It kind of goes back to how you talked about competing in the classroom, right? This isn't the classroom, but this is competing in a way outside of the weight room or outside of the football field. You're still trying to get better. As you're
it's probably
your home and everything.
It's probably an area of competition that a lot of people overlook. Especially probably young athletes. When you're young, you don't really have any soreness. You're kind of just out there, which is great, and maybe you don't need to. But as you get in the high school, and upperclassmen, and then on the college, it's definitely something that makes a difference for your performance come game day or whatever.
One last topic we wanted to cover was coaching. You have a great coach right before we were talking. You were saying you have a great coach right now in Kalani. What are some attributes you've seen from him or other great coaches that you feel like have helped you as an athlete or as a person to develop?
Kalani is a great example. Coach Sitake, one thing he preaches is love and learn. And the thing that I liked, having been here for 4 years already, is, we've had 2 years ago, not a great year, first year in the Big 12. Didn't win as many games as we were hoping to. What I appreciate about Kalani is the message was the same, just a increased attention to details of it. And so it wasn't like love and learn wasn't the answer. It's always been the answer, and it's his culture and the way he wants to run the team. And it was doubling down on the learning and the love, honestly, both this offseason, and getting to know teammates more, getting to know the playbook better, getting to know, recovery and weight room, just learning all that stuff, helped propel us for this year, having a great year, with obviously winning as many games as we did and stuff. But one thing I like about Kalani is his loyalty to what he feels is right. And not wavering when, he doesn't know, no one really listens to the media a ton, just because they'll love you and they hate you at the same, different time of the year. So Kalani, I appreciate, he preaches that, but he also practiced it. And I see that example of, during the down year, he probably got called out of it's not working, right? Like, and then but him just sticking to his guns and being loyal to what he knows is possible, like is right, and then seeing that happen this year and hopefully from here on out. And he's got an extension, so he'll be here for a while.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Excited for
love
him.
To see,
yeah. So just being coached under Kalani has been a huge blessing for me. Another thing that he talks about a lot, which it's a little different, but I think it's a cool. Whenever I share it with like family and friends, I always think it's pretty cool. It's being a tough guy after a loss means going to your family and not letting them letting them know that you lost, like treating them in such a way that they don't know that you lost. Like he has an example of driving the car after one of the losses with his family, and one of his kids asking like, "Wait, Dad, did we win or lose?" And they just got him like blown out or something. And like he always uses that example, and then he always uses Christ as like the most tough guy that we know. And when he was on the cross, caring for others, and even though he was suffering, so like, loss is hurt, and we can suffer, and it's okay to like feel. But like when we're with family and friends, to like be grateful for that they came and supported us and doing all that. And so I really appreciate that from Kalani as well, and that like kind of life lesson of being a tough guy doesn't always mean what the movies depict or what people maybe think. It's really just being able to control your emotions and show love and support in all times. So
those both of those things are awesome. With the first part you talked about, we've had a lot of psychologists on the podcast, and they've talked about how we need to be process oriented and not just like outcome oriented. And that kind of sounds like what, he stuck to his process. He knew if we do these things right, we'll have success. Not so much like we're going to win this many games, and like that's all you talk about is how many games you're going to win, right? But you focus on the process. And then that other, that second point you pointed out, I think that's a great lesson for parents of youth athletes too. Like even if your kid has like a bad game, to still love them and still treat them the same way you would. If they, right, in basketball, maybe they don't make a bucket and they turn over, they get the ball stolen from them over and over. Still treat them the same as you treat them if they hit the game winner or whatever it is, I think.
Yeah. They know.
Yeah.
Like, whenever I had a bad game growing up, I knew I had a bad game.
Yeah.
And then I didn't need my parents to tell me I had a bad game. Yeah. And they were great. There's obviously a good balance of like helping your child reach their potential, but also making sure they know that you love them still, even if they don't reach their potential. Like if you maybe you think they can be the next LeBron James, but like if they don't, you'll still love them. So I think that's a good point that you bring up.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, any last minute advice for anyone, any youth, any coaches, any parents out there? I know you've covered a lot, so if you want to hit back on something you already covered and point out that, but any last minute takeaways or advice for anyone?
Just sports are fun, and they're meant to be fun. So let it be fun, and they're competitive and they're serious, but that doesn't mean you can't have fun at the same time, and can't allow you should allow your kids to have fun, and you can yell at the refs, but it's not as big deal as you think, and it's going to be okay. Win or lose, you obviously want to win more. And so work hard to win, and help your kid. Maybe one thing is have maybe some conversations with your kid about what they want, because you might be having them play 5 sports because you hear that's the best thing for them, but they might only like 2 or 3. Yeah. Like they might hate karate or gymnastics, or they only like whatever. Baseball.
They could hate football.
They could hate football.
I don't know why.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know, but so maybe having that talk, like, are you still enjoying this? And if they don't, I can imagine, I'm not a parent, but I can imagine if I talk to my kid and he doesn't like football anymore, that'd be hard. Yeah. Right? Like, or maybe he never even plays. That could be hard, but I'd rather him be happy, or my daughter be happy about what sport they're playing. So maybe, I don't know. That was a thought I had. Again, I'm not a parent, so I don't claim to be an expert on any of this. But have the conversation with your kid, make sure they're still liking the sport they're playing, and then whatever they choose, make it fun for them.
Yeah, I agree. Awesome. Well, thanks again, Talan. Thanks for
Yeah,
being on.
thanks
Thanks
for having
everyone
me.
for listening. If you have any future topics you want us to cover, go ahead and put it in the comments or send us a DM or contact us on our website. But thanks again.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.